Jörg.
Hello, good morning.
Good morning to you. I was expecting a large group, but it's the two of us.
No, let's wait. Let's wait. If I'm in the right room. Wait a second.
Yes, back again.
So let's check where are the others then. So this is a students group, and tomorrow is the group for the executives.
Okay.
So today it's Aditya Singh. Let's check where he is. I will just write him an email. Normally there are also more students there. Let me check.
Okay, awesome. Yep.
Strange that where are the others? I cannot understand it right now because Aditya is giving the session and he's also not there.
And that is kind of strange. But we have one participant, Michael Gobar.
Okay. Then perhaps the other one will join. So let me wait. Okay.
We're on mute.
Let me check. So Michael, yeah. But I will ask Aditya when he's joining because he's giving the session today, and he's in Mumbai.
Okay, cool.
So tomorrow there will be the session on global virtual teams from Basil Taras.
Okay.
And Osrin from Finland. They both, one is United States, the other one is Finland. And normally there are 60 executives worldwide inside. Let's see about tomorrow. The students version has sometimes 15, sometimes only 7 or 8 because this is not mandatory. But I'm wondering that Aditya is not here because he gives the session. So this is where I'm a little bit confused right now because we arranged that, but let's see. But I'm trying to catch him via WhatsApp, so wait some seconds, please.
Yeah, no worries.
Okay, so he said he's logging in right now. So, Michael, can you listen to me? He's in Slovenia, close to Vienna.
Slovenia is close to Vienna, yeah.
But I don't know if he has a microphone. I also have his WhatsApp.
He's still on mute. Maybe he hears us. There is.
Hello, Aditya.
Hey, hi.
Hello.
Hello, how are you, Jörg?
I'm good. Just wait if some students will also join. I sent an email, but it seems to be some connection problems or anything. I don't know, but I will send also a reminder.
No worries, we'll wait for 5 minutes. No worries.
Yeah, we can wait. We can wait. So Michael is there from Slovenia, but there should be many more. So the last sessions there were always 10 to 15 students. So let me check what's going on right now.
Sure, no worries. We can rephrase, we can reschedule it, not a problem. I'm okay with it.
But you both can get to know each other then.
Yeah, we would. I was thinking about that. Just trying to get to know you, Aditya, because you and I are close. I'm based out of Vienna, Austria, and I heard you are out of Slovenia.
No, that's Michael. Michael is in Slovenia.
Oh, sorry,
I'm far closer. I'm in India. It's very close to Vienna.
Oh, that's easy, close. No worries.
Just 4.5 hours ahead. That's about it.
Yeah, no worries. Yeah. So what's this? Well, the program I read, but what is the student part and executive part? Why is that separated? And
yeah, I think so. There are 2 different tracks which are there. One track is there, which is for students, which is essentially graduate students. I mean, who are in the MBA or just out of MBA, etc. So obviously their worldview and their viewpoint on things is very different from what it's going to be for executives. So there are 2 different tracks. One is for the students, which is the international business students, and the other track, of course, is for executives. And I think it's very interesting because the kind of interface and the interplay you get in the participants for each of these sessions will be very different depending upon their experience level and their maturity level. And that's what makes it very interesting, if you ask me.
I imagine, yes. Been there, done that. Got a T-shirt.
Yeah.
Okay. So some students have joined. So I think that we can also perhaps start. Perhaps there might be more. So from India, Satyam, Mikael from Slovenia, Julius from Germany, and let's see who else. I just sent a reminder. So yeah. So perhaps we can start and then look if 2 or 3 are joining. So like Aditya said, we have an international business students program. This is now in the 11th week. Next week there is Vlad Feiman from California Lutheran University talking about global talent management. And today it is Aditya and perhaps you can from Athena School. So I have not seen anybody more active at LinkedIn than Aditya, so giving classes worldwide. in mostly each country of the world. And yeah, I'm happy that you are here and that today we will listen a little bit to global digitalization, global innovation. So Aditya is not only business professor, but I think his career started more as a businessman and a lot of networks worldwide, London, but perhaps you can shortly introduce yourself and then we can start a little bit with the session.
Fair enough. I'm just timing this. We have about 45 minutes for this session. Just want your
only 45 minutes, a short session today. So a little bit of input. I mean, it is recorded. Some students, perhaps they always look it on demand later because of the different time zones. Yeah, it is always the same. So
perfect. Yeah, so don't worry. I mean, I'm pretty cool with that. Okay, just give me 1 second. So already at that. All right, fair enough. Well, thanks, y'all, for inviting me over here. It's a pleasure being in this session. Been closely associated with the entire global mindset movements for some time, and it's a privilege to be finally taking a session for the international business track students over here. My name is Professor Aditya Singh. I'm the director at the Athena School of Management, which is a business school based out of Mumbai in India, where I also teach impact leadership and differential thinking, among other subjects. I'm a fellow of the Royal Society of Arts, the Royal Asiatic Society, and the Royal Anthropological Institute, all based in London and UK. As York said, I have the good fortune and privilege of teaching in pretty much every single continent on this planet, North America, South America, Europe, so on and so forth. And I teach in sustainability, in leadership, and impact, and of course, digital transformation, which is what we'll be covering today. I am lucky enough to be on the advisory board of several organizations, startups, and technology incubators in France, Germany, Canada, Brazil, the US. And I speak as a global speaker at the Horasis conferences and the World Economic Forum, so on and so forth. I am lucky I did my MBA from Athena, from SPGen in India, did an advanced MBA from the Wharton School in the US, and a DBA from the University of Bath. And I think I've covered quite a lot about myself. So it's not about me, it's about the session. So let's start out with that. I'm just going to share the session. Just guide me if you can see this, please, because I'm not too familiar with, well, to be very honest with this. So, okay, okay. What do I do? How do I do this?
On the right
window.
top corner, you have the share button. It's the arrow.
Yep.
Click on the share button. If you have audio, included,
I'll just do the screen. Just give me a second, please.
Okay. Now it works. Yeah. Thank you. It works.
You can see me. You can see the session.
Yes.
All right. Fair enough. Great. So let's start off. The session is called Digital Transformation and Trends in Entrepreneurship. And this is going to be about 45 minutes. At the end of this, any questions and doubts, please go for it. Ask me, shoot for it. The world has seen tremendous change in the past 30 years. What we saw the world in 1992 or 91 and where we see ourselves today is completely different. But as I say, history has a way of repeating itself, and we're seeing that, of course, in Eastern Europe to some extent. So what has happened again, before will happen again, that's how we look at it in Hinduism. It's a karmic cycle, and that's what it looks like it's happening. But look how the world has changed from underdeveloped economies to developing economies. Let's talk about the BRICS, right? I mean, 30 years ago, you had Brazil, Russia, India, China, and South Africa, which were not, well, with the exception of maybe Russia, they were not the most advanced economies in the world. But you're seeing now that in the past 30 years, you see the rise of the global South. By the global South, we mean what we call the third world countries initially, the developing nations, and we see them increasing in economic clout and in social clout across the world, which is rightly so. Why? Because if you see 52% of the world's population is below 30 years of age, which is pretty humbling, which means more than 3.5 billion people on this planet today are below 30 years. What is more interesting also is that more than 60% of the planet's population stays in the global South, which means you have more than 4.2 billion people who stay in what we would call the developing world or the underdeveloped world. What we've also seen is something very interesting will happen. If you look at revolutions, you had the Industrial Revolution, the Agricultural Revolution, the Technology Revolution. But what we've seen happen, especially in the developing world, is what we call the Communications Revolution or the Internet Revolution. It's actually jumped a couple of stages. And what we've seen is a rapid increase in telecom technology and internet usage across the entire developing world in a way which we never thought possible. So if you see, for example, a country like India, the fixed line per person penetration, which are fixed, I mean the old phone lines, or the telephone hardwired lines, is very low. So unlike the West, unlike in Europe or unlike in the US, where every household has a fixed line phone, you never had a scenario in India. What you instead had is a situation where you have a direct jump to mobile telephony. Now, this is very important because you have to understand the sheer scale and size of economies. As you know, China already is the world's second largest economy, and it's going to compete neck and neck with the US very soon. India, by if I look at my purchasing power parity, is already at 10.5 trillion US dollars. So by PPP, India is the world's third largest economy as of now. And by if you see by GDP, we are around 3 trillion, sorry, US dollars, which makes us already the fifth largest economy in the world. It just gives you context. Remember, China has about 1.5 billion people. India has about 1.45, almost 1.5 billion people. So essentially, half the world's population stays in these two countries itself. Just puts context into place. So when you have leaders which talk about, recently we heard about leaders talking about, oh, the entire world is doing that. Well, it really doesn't matter, because if you see, a lot of the world is not in their purview, which is there. And that's what I need you to understand. When you look at global business, it's not only from one region, it's not only from one continent. Has to be truly global with different insights and different perspectives. If you move on, what are the aspects of digital transformation? We're talking about communications, mobile, and internet penetration. And this is very, very important. For true transformation to occur, two things have to happen. The first is that at least 60% of the adult population has to have access to mobile telephony. That's very important. Please understand that. And then at least 50% of that population has to have access to rapid, stable internet. That's very important. So overall, you're looking at about 30 to 35% of the population having consistent access to the internet. Now, I don't mean deep broadband connection, but yes, stable internet connection is very, very important. It's only if you have that you can truly start seeing transformation happening in an economy. We've seen that happen in India, by the way. The next thing is the rise of artificial intelligence and machine learning. Everything we do has AI and ML in it. The rapid iterative cycles, which we used to now, previously it used to be manual or digital, but never machine learning enabled. It used to take days and days and weeks. Now this is happening in the space of hours. We're seeing the rise of new technologies and new mediums. So be it blockchains, leading to, of course, cryptocurrency, which I think, given this scenario in the past 1 year, 1 month, has become far more important than we ever thought. And I'll have my thoughts on that. The fall of the petrodollar and the rise of cryptocurrency is now here to stay. And then, of course, the darling of this year, of course, has been NFT, right? Non-fungible tokens. Everyone talks about it. And it's a very interesting lacuna and an area to be. Digital can be an enabler. It can be a catalyst. It can be a disruptor, but most important, can be a creator. It is in the end a tool, and it is on you how you use it to take it to the next level, on an individual level, on a company level, on a regional level, on a national level, on a global level. But one thing to remember, digital transformation has to involve positive influence on unit economics. This is something which those of you who have done VC or Ps will know is very, very important in the end. What is unit economics? Simply, it means there's a positive influence when the cost of acquisition of a new customer keeps reducing and the life cycle returns, so the life cycle revenue from each customer keeps increasing. All right. So it either the cost of acquisition has to go down or the life cycle revenue has to go up. Of course, if you have both of them together, then you have a wonder, but then you have a cake and eat it too. But this is very, very important if you want this to move on. And one thing very important is, so far we've seen this more of a cost reduction perspective. We've seen technology, digital, but it is now moving towards value addition. And that's critical, because it's only when you have value addition that things are getting differentiated. If you play on a pure cost perspective, as economics teaches us, it's going to be simply commoditized. And that's not good for anyone. If you really want transformation to happen, it has to be towards value addition. And we're seeing that happening now. The biggest example, of course, is OTT, right? Netflix, Amazon Prime, Hulu. These are all value additions. You don't need them, but you have them, and now obviously they're getting a own cycle and a business cycle of their own. What's the need for digital transformation? You have a huge and fast growing global population. All right, we are at 7 billion. You're going 7 or 7, I don't know, 7.2. I mean, it's insane, right? I mean, it's growing at a never this population. What is very important is again that the population is below a certain age. To give you a perspective, half of India's population now is below the age of 25. You have 750 million Indians who are less than 25 years old. Now, that is a tremendous opportunity, but that is also a tremendous challenge. How do you address that becomes very, very important. The second part, of course, is varied geography and accessibility. You need to understand that India so far has been the driver of global population growth. It was China 25, 30 years ago, and then they put in the disastrous one-child policy. And today, China is in a situation where, unfortunately, they are in towards the curve, which is now going down when it comes to and they have an aging population. India is lucky; it is just on the upward ascendant. But
I have one question
sure,
concerning India, because when you say that 750 million are under 25 years of age, but how is it concerning graduates, bachelor graduates or master graduates? So how is the job market actually in India? So do all of them find a job because there are so many people within this age, or so how is the problem? Because I see that a lot of people from India also would like to work in Europe, and it could even be that there might be not so many good jobs, or the jobs are only in Mumbai or in the biggest cities. Perhaps you can also tell me something about it. In Spain, they also have a problem with people that 10 or 15% or more, even more, don't find a job after they graduated, and this is in Europe. But now we can see the big population of India.
so look, how it works is that, let's be very honest, no economy in the world, and I mean no one in the economy can create 750 million jobs. That's a technological, economical, statistic impossibility. So we have to be
Yeah.
very clear on that. Of course, this is obviously differentiated because you have a bell curve because it's below 25. So it's all together, right? So you have people who are 1 year old, so 2 years old, so 5 and 10. So it's spread out that way. Uh, you have to understand that typically in the end, you have about 10 million graduates coming out a year in India. All right, 10 million, which essentially means that about, give or take, about 10 or 20% of the sample size who should be graduating are actually graduating. The remainder don't because of different reasons. What is tremendous is to understand that at independence, uh, the literacy rate in India is about 25% overall. Today, India is crossing 80% literacy, which is a huge jump, and we probably will reach 95% in the next decade or so. So that's been a huge jump. But when India took a literacy, you're looking about literacy people who finished the 8th grade or the 10th grade, people who are functional literates, which is all right. I think it's a different problem. The problem is that when you are producing so many graduates, as you correctly said, we produce how many? About uh, 2 million engineers? Yeah, about 2 million engineers. Yeah, about 2 million. That's scary, yeah, but about 2 million engineers a year. Right? I mean, come on, you don't have 2 million engineering jobs. I mean, no country has that, all right? So what you end up having is a situation where you have people who are qualified by qualification, but do they have the requisite skill set? That's number one. The second part is there has been the movement in the past 10 years by the government to increase entrepreneurship, to make people micro entrepreneurs. And I think that is the way to go. The motto of the philosophy of the government is if you're a young, educated man or a woman in India who's got a college education, who's probably done a master's or an MBA or an engineering degree, the old philosophy was go and search for a job. The new philosophy is create a company, create jobs for others, be a creator. And that's where I came back right from the beginning, where I said digital transformation can be a disruptor, it can be an enabler, or it could also a catalyst, but it can also be a creator. And what we are seeing in India, which I'll touch a bit later, is this huge boom of technology and digital enabled creation of opportunities, of businesses, and of jobs. We are averaging 2 new unicorns every week. That means every 3 to 4 days, a new company is there which is becoming worth at least $1 billion. All right. Nowhere in the world are you seeing that kind of momentum. And that is wonderful. And 99% of these are tech-enabled digital transformative companies. That, I think, is the India story. How we've been able to move that.
And this is also your approach, no, from Athena, no, that you are then being very practitioner oriented, good
Yes.
contacts to industries. I mean, your person, you are also in different companies where you are accelerating these entrepreneurial activities. I mean, this is part of your DNA of Athena School, no, and your person as well.
Yes, and I think perhaps, we are all functions of the environment we operate in, perhaps, and perhaps the environment influences how you evolve as an organization, as
Yeah.
an individual. But I think if you ask me, this is a model which has to be replicated globally, uh, because you need to have a movement that's important. But India, I think, is going to be in this stage for the next 30 years. But again, coming back to my variant and geography and accessibility issue, the great future, if you ask me, for this world is the continent of Africa. Africa has so much of potential, and that's where you're going to see the next growth of demography and the growth of economy. You look at Nigeria, for example. You
Yeah,
look at
it's exploding.
Kenya. Yeah, Nigeria is probably the most underperforming, underrated economy in the world because when their time comes, trust you me, they are going to just zoom ahead, and that time will come. All right. Uh, a lot of people assume Africa only from the perspective of South Africa. There's so much more to Africa. And again, that's where the challenge also comes and the need comes for digital transformation. How do you address the varied accessibility? How do you have someone in supposing Abuja, which is the capital of Nigeria, work on a project in partnership with someone in Albany, which is in New York State? Right? That is one of the things. Or how does someone, who's sitting out of, say, Lagos, coordinate with someone who's sitting out of Ljubljana, all right, in Slovenia?
Yeah.
Now, if you can do that, that is the global opportunity. That's what digital is doing. It is making the world a smaller place. It's making the world a closer place. And I think that's important in today's world, seeing what we are all about as it is. What we're also seeing is an increasingly digital savvy population. And I mean this in two different perfects. Of course, you and me, we are generation, we are the millenniums or millennials as they call us, or maybe what are we? I don't know what we are. We are generation, we're not generation Z, we're millennials, perhaps to some extent. And we never grew up with computers, or we just grew up with basic. I don't know if you remember. I remember learning BASIC and COBOL and WordStar and Linus and all of that typically, right? So we can use technology. But if you look at Generation Z and Generation Alpha, for them, the digital world is a cognitive skill. It's not something which is alien to them. So for you and me, it's something which we've learned. For them, it's something which is ingrained. All right. I mean, if I talk about Generation Alpha, which is born after 2010, which is 12 years and 13 years right now, they're born with the digital world, be it with the iPhone, to the thing. Same with Generation Z. And that's what makes them very digitally savvy. And because of cheap mobile telephony, this has penetrated to people who are in very remote places and people who may be at the bottom of the socio-economic pyramid right now, but who can definitely go up. And that brings me to the next part which is there. It creates a cost-effective system for delivery, support, and service. In the end, the biggest challenge has never been technology. It's never been the system and processes. It's always been, can we bring them into the cost matrix which we need for it to be accessible by anybody and everybody everywhere? And that's what digital transformation is doing for us in today's world, be it supply chain enablement, so on and so forth. But the biggest thing is this is creating a competition from geo-economic growth and geopolitical power. If you look at a country like China, the kind of focus on digital is insane. Artificial intelligence, machine learning, they're really that's the domain which they've moved forward with completely, right? And perhaps geopolitical power. Today, if you talk about competition, national strength, cyberspace is something which is very, very important. And again, so that's the issue to keep. So that's the need for digital transformation. And we see this grow, this transformation and this need for this just growing over the next few decades. It's a behemoth.
What would you,
Aditya,
what would you say? What are these national advantages of India? I mean, this young population. You also said perhaps a lot of engineers. Now, I think we have in total graduates in Germany of 300,000 a year. Now, I mean, this is in total for the total. So for all different kinds of studies, not only engineer but business studies, chemical, medicine, and everything. So 300,000. But what would you say? What are the most important national advantages? Because you mentioned here creating a cost-effective system for delivery, support, service. So when I'm now look a little bit at the Asian culture, or more specifically Japanese, Chinese, making things more efficient. But what would you say? What is more from the Indian perspective? I mean, we know that IT is one of those very important issues. But would you say there is something new developing now? Like you also mentioned the unicorns, the new entrepreneurs. So what would you say? What is the direction of India?
It's already developed. I'll put it this way. If you see the national ethos or the thinking process, be it Japan, be it Korea, be it China, be it East Asia, it's very regimented. It's very hierarchical. It's very process oriented. Is it very innovative? I don't know. But what I do know is when you look at it from an Indian, the South Asian perspective, by nature, the entire history, the culture, it's been all about much more than just regimentation. In fact, probably a lot of people who visit India are overwhelmed, right? Is there multiple sensory overload is how I've heard people tell me it's all about. And well, perhaps somebody flattered India when they talked 15 years ago and said India is the call center or the process outsourcing center of the world, just like China was the factory of the world.
Yeah,
that's not true anymore.
Yeah.
India is now the incubator of the world. India is the place where you're seeing people come out with great ideas, with innovations. And that's, I think, the most basic trade. Even if you see IT, the large, famous Indian companies were always services companies, which worked on a cost reduction perspective.
Yeah.
Now, with the new tech-enabled companies, we are now moving to the value-add space, where they're innovating in products, platforms, and that's very, very important if you want to move forward. You know, one which was the, I mean, no offense, but that's what it is. Let's be very
Yeah.
honest about it. All right. They talk about, I forgot the app which they talk about, which is about their mobility app. Again, a clear-cut copy of Uber. All right. So my question is, where is originality? We are living in an age where customers, economies, and the population is finally rewarding people who think differently, who think innovatively, who give different solutions. And that's what makes it so exciting. If you ask me, there were only two such phases before in the history of human race. The first, of course, was in the Renaissance, if you would take that, all right, post the Reformation, etc. Late 14th century, 15th and 16th century, led by northern Italy. When you saw this boom at the time of Leonardo, Raphael, Michelangelo, you saw this big boom of coming of rebirth, right? That's what Renaissance was. And the second, of course, was the industrial age in the 18th and the early 19th century. Also, overlapping with the age of exploration. We're now in the age of digital exploration and innovation. We're seeing a renaissance. And this is an exciting time because this comes once every 200-300 years. Where we go from now, nobody knows. But wherever we go, it's going to be very, very exciting. We have multiple branch futures. But what is very important to understand is just like the Renaissance brought up a lot of people in Europe from the Dark Ages, just like the industrial age made Europe the center of the known world, and by extension, when the US came up, the US became the same because of extension of European civilization. Digital is going to see the rise of what we call the global south, of Asia and Africa. And I'm hopeful if it can happen in Latin America also. I would love to see that. This is their time. Can they take it and explore it? Who knows? But hopefully they can. That's my perspective of the situation as we see it right now. So what are the areas of transformation we see through digital? We see finance, which is fintech, education, edtech, again, very, very well driven in the past 2 years of the pandemic with lockdowns, schools, colleges not working. Health tech critical now, be it diagnostics, be it remote medicine. Again, you're looking at things coming up which we never saw coming up before, which was essentially we saw. Am I there? Excuse me.
Yes, you're there.
Okay, sorry, just because I couldn't see the visuals. That's what I was wondering. All right.
Okay.
Okay. Give me 1 second. Let me just go back. I lost space. Okay, fair enough. All right.
Okay.
Health tech. All right. Okay. Retail tech. All right, because you see people now with micro delivery. Today, I can order a good, which is or a service. I can order vegetables at which are worth $1, and they still get delivered home to my place. That's tremendous. Look at it's such a small ticket size, and even that's get delivered to my house. And of course, what I see very, very important is sustainability and it is green tech. These are going to be the areas of transformation which we see in the thing. You're just warn me when we have 10 minutes left on the clock, huh? Please, very important. Thanks.
Okay.
Now, I wanted to look at this, all right, and I wanted to give you an example, all right. You see this within the traditional Indian weddings, all right, and I want you to tell me how this can be digitally transformed. Would love to have inputs of this. I've stopped sharing deliberately. So I love for somebody over here to tell me how you digitally transform this. It was a big Indian wedding. Any ideas? How can you transform that? And that's where I put and people in contribute.
Yeah, perhaps Mr. Robens or.
I really am flabbergasted. I would not know how to digitally transform a traditional Indian wedding, maybe except for the gift giving, for the sharing the gifts, but nothing really. I don't know. I don't know how you digitally transform a wedding.
Okay, great. Anyone else? Vineet?
Yeah, definitely. I think that traditionally, see, the divorce rate in India is very low. And people have a very strong bonding. Still, there are some families where this sort of collectivist culture, it prevails. So it can be converted into a sort of web page, and then you can add in because a new life is starting. So maybe this can be converted into a sort of digital album, and then you can add on various new chapters to this. like how the family grows, right? So like today's generation is more of about like showing themselves, right? So they are more into like showing the world that where exactly they stand, although it was not a norm early in the early days, but today it has transformed a lot. So that's my take. Yeah.
So wonderful, great. Anyone else?
Well, I think cost is one of the greatest challenges to people getting married. So if you could
Very
provide
important.
loans, if you could provide loans for people to get married that they could pay over time, I think that would be good. Yeah, that's my take.
Wonderful. Okay, fair enough. All right. Let me give you context, and I'm sure a couple of students from India will know that. All right. In India, marriages are never between two individuals, or were never between individuals, always between two families. So about 20, 30 years ago, when you had a lot of marriages which were arranged marriages, I would come back home one day from office, and a friend would say, "You know what? Look at this photograph. This is a nice girl we've seen for you. You need to get married with her." And I'd be like, "Wow, all right, fair enough. How do we do that?" And then that weekend, my parents would go with me, my family would go with me, visit the girl's family over there, sit down over there, where we would talk, uh, and then decide over that interaction whether you wanted to marry each other or not. Never having met each other before. Being modern, the parent would say, "You know what? Go up to the roof, talk to each other alone for 15 minutes, figure out if you like each other, and then take a decision." All right. And that's how it completely went. Vineet and Satyam from India will know that's how it marriages typically were in the old days. Now, something happened. In 1990, the Indian economy liberalized. All right. And you had this entire huge young population of Indians who were staying alone in cities, who were making their own pretty decent income. All right. And obviously, they wanted to meet someone to marry, but they didn't want to typically go and go to their families. So that's where this came in, which was something called Shadi.com. All right. Which what it did was it was for it was a matchmaking service. All right. Very simple. You go on to the internet, because that time there were no apps. Remember that. This is in the 90s. All right. You set up your own profile over there. Hopefully, you put your own photograph and not Brad Pitt's photograph on that. Similarly, the lady does that. And then you filter out search and you meet each other. And then if you both click, you obviously then start talking to each other. And who knows, that ends up in marriage. Shadi.com claims that they have successfully made more than 1 million couples get married in the past 20 years, which is pretty decent. All right. Very importantly, the fact of the matter is, it suddenly gave independence to young Indians, men and women. They didn't have to go to their families. They could do this on their own. And they have been, very importantly, Jorg and Herbert, one of the most profitable e-commerce and digital companies consistently for the past 20 years. And that's what I wanted to understand. Something which is so core, which is so traditional to a culture like India, which is arranged marriage, that was transformed into something else completely. So that's what I wanted to understand. It's something so simple, something so basic, and it can change how the perspective works. So let me just share the screen again and share the story a bit more with you, so you understand this a bit more from my perspective. All right. Am I visible? Just confirming.
Yes, yes, yes.
And so is it. All right, perfect. All right. So Shadi.com, largest player in the matchmaking industry, started in 1997. It's into traditional Indian wedding matchmaking. Remember, this is the internet was there. There were no apps. It helps to filter potential matches, empowers young adults. As of, well, you can see that today, 2021, over 35 million registered users. That's not too bad. All right. And of course, the problem is they have new competition now with things such as Tinder and so forth. But of course, you don't go on Tinder to get married. All right. That's a different story completely. But yes, that's competition for you. Very interesting story. Let's go to another example. Have a look at this picture. Take it all in. All right. And I'm going to stop sharing the screen in about 5 seconds. Just take the entire picture in. 5, 4, 3, 2, 1, 0, stop. All right. How do you transform this? This is a vegetable vendor on a street corner, not very rich, not a departmental store, not even a corner mom and pop shop, pretty much on the road. It's what we call a hawker, right? How do you transform this? Inputs, please.
Maybe I start again. The others are on mute. Mobile payment was possible. So because that's what it says, the little sign says mobile payment, I accept. With mobile payment, you know exactly also what they are buying. So you can now steer the whole process, the whole supply chain from the farmer towards your market, even though you're on a very small corner of the business. We see this happening as well with the sugar market in Europe. The sugar market in Europe is still a very old traditional market where you have sugar beets and you bring them to the factory, and you know every tractor with a bunch of sugar beets on the back is being delivered, and this is still done in paper process. And it's actually the European community at the moment motivating farmers to start using their mobile phone for measuring the quantity and the sales and the quality. So this is how you can transform that business there in that corner as well, I guess.
Absolutely. Very interesting. Julius, please share your thoughts with us.
Yes, so that's what I initially thought of as well. But I also had another idea in mind. I thought about a delivery service. So since you have mobile payment, it should be possible to like give that vendor a website where he can list his products, and people can order online to pick their groceries up at the store, or they have someone who can deliver the groceries to the port or to their home. That was my idea.
Great. Fantastic. Thanks, Sabah. Thanks, Julius. Pardon the background noise. I have a neighbor's young dog who is a puppy who's really excited. So if you hear them barking, that's not me. It's a neighbor's dog. I'm just telling you, letting you. All right. Now, looking at this, I think both of you right now, if you see the picture, right, it says payments accepted here, right? And you're right. It is digital payments. You have to understand that till 2016, 90% of the Indian economy was driven by cash. 90%. Right? Today, 85% of the Indian economy is driven by digital payments. 85%. What changed in the past 6 years are two major things. One, a government step legislation almost, and what we call in India legendary the demonetization, which Indian students will know, where overnight the government said you cannot accept cash, you have to do only digital. Well, that's number one. And number two, of course, the past 2 years of the COVID pandemic. But what is very exciting is imagine this. This is a street vendor. He doesn't have too much of inventory, right? I mean, look at this size, all right? His average ticket size, being India and vegetables not being very expensive over here, would be somewhere around $1, $2. So very small ticket size. Probably at the end of the day, he makes about $200 to $300, maybe full of revenue, not profit, all right? Now, obviously, if he takes the digital payments, that means he's confident that the money is coming into his account. More important, remember, in his case, he doesn't have any inventory. It's perishables, right? Which means every early morning at 3 a.m., he goes to the wholesaler and he has to buy the goods from them. The fact that he's accepting digital payments from you means that the wholesaler up the supply chain also is accepting the digital payments. Which means the entire supply chain is now moving into digital payments. That's number one. The second part, of course, is what Herbert said. When you have transactions digitally, you have data. When you have data, you can mine the data and use the data to get very, very clear-cut answers. The third part, what Julius said, is also very, very important. That has already started in India, at least, called micro delivery. All right. You have platforms, I think Vineet and Satyam may know, like Dunzo, which promises you to deliver groceries to your house within 30 minutes. And now you have a competition called Zepto, which promises, believe it or not, to deliver groceries to your home in 20 minutes. 20 minutes. All right. And they do these small ticket sizes. And this is exactly what they're using. So are you seeing how the entire ecosystem has changed by a single change of making sure that you accept your payments through electronic wallet, through a mobile phone number, or through a QR code. And it's revolutionizing things because now you can do so much more with it. And that again is a very basic change. It's nothing rocket science. But what it has happened is there's acceptance of technology, but just as important, Jürgen Herbert, there's a change in mindset. The fact that a vendor who's probably studied till class 4 or class 5 at the maximum, who earns basically $100-$200 a day revenue, not profit again, is ready to embrace the digital space, tells you so much of what is happening in the global south. All right, let me start moving to the next slide. Again, you have to give me a warning and heads up. All right, very important. Otherwise, I can just go on. So,
okay, it's there.
That's
okay,
the perfect thing.
Okay, so fintech in developing countries, Africa, Asia, and Latin America are very underbanked. We know that. Major issues are with transfer of money and transfer of capital. Why? Because a lot of people don't even get education loans. Why? Because you don't have loan documents or you don't have proper addresses. Till recently, 70% of the economy globally in the global south is cash transaction driven. But now you have things like Paytm, like you saw in this picture, Google Pay, UPI, revolutionizing financial transactions. And we see that now move to the next level with blockchains and financial tokens. Very important, you have now microfinance institutions which lend very, very small amounts. They lend maybe around $500 or $300 to small villages and self-help groups, are now being able to do direct transactions, direct credit transfers, direct tokens driven to users, driven by the entire digital mind space. Of course, there are regulatory and policy concerns, which I think is always there. And we hope that the governments can come out with a proper framework, which while it regulates also doesn't stifle this. It's very, very important. Now, this is interesting. Please look at this completely critical. Fashion and luxury, everybody likes it. Read what it says down. It says Cookie AI modeling an NFT by digital designer Yekaterina Burmatnova, featuring a Pinar and Viola Google Daydream print at the Crypto Fashion Week. I'll give you 5 seconds. And I'm stopping now. Okay, open to inputs. What's happening here? This is, I think, too much, but fair enough.
It's a lot, and I would call it Second Life.
Absolutely. Good. Jörg, what's happening there?
Yeah, so everything is transferred to the internet, no? So there's no showroom anymore. I mean, we also had the same issue, I think, 1 or 2 years ago, where you normally could watch all the automobiles in Genf or any other this World Fair for cars, and then they said it's COVID now, and now you can see all the cars which are showing you their new models and everything digitally. So this person is a digital figure. It's not even a real person. And in this case, it is something like a different identity also. No?
I always tell people fashion and the luxury industry, a lot of us don't take them seriously because of the sheer money involved and the sheer value of transactions. In many ways, they are the real innovators and pioneers in things which other industries follow later. So, of course, one we saw, of course, is that the model itself is an artificial intelligence model. It's like but said it's a second light now for the accentuated by what we call the metaverse. Number one. What we also saw happening with Gucci is because of the entire pandemic, they moved for the first time into a virtual fashion week this in the beginning of 2021. Now that has a lot of implications. Why? Now the pros is, of course, you can do a virtual fashion week anytime, any place, right? It's your convenience, and then you don't depend on any location. You can do it as a fashion house or as a company yourself. The problem is, if you see statistics, About 80% of the global high fashion trade normally happens in the 5 or 6 actual physical fashion weeks. The London Fashion Week, the Paris Fashion Week, the Milan Fashion Week, the Miami Fashion Week, the New York Fashion Week, and perhaps the Rome Fashion Week. Now, when you don't have those anymore, what happens to your trade? How do you do that? Is there is this being completely supplemented by the digital fashion week, or do you still need to have them? That's very, very important. That's what we've seen happening. The next thing, of course, is online retail. Again, Versace has moved into this typically. They've said we have online stores. They've always been very innovative. So now, and this happens in a lot of fashion houses also, luxury also. You don't need to go any store now. You can go to online and you can just purchase anything which you want. What for me has been revolutionary is 2 parts. One is skins and one is NFTs. Now, let me talk about skins. Today, when I want to buy a good Nike Iverson sneakers or a Nike, Kobe brand sneakers, they cost me about $200-300, right? Or euros. And I've got to go in the store and buy it if I wear it. But I have an option of owning the same at $5 also. How do I do that? I do that by purchasing those for my digital avatar. So these are, so remember, these are absolutely proper company branded, purchased with an invoiced sneakers, which are just digital for my avatar. I can buy bags, I can buy things. And here is a tricky thing. You're buying digital clothes, digital accessories with real money. So recently, a luxury bag, retailed for $35,000. But it was only a virtual bag. It wasn't a real bag. You have Gucci, Armani, Versace, Chanel, who are all now entering this entire space. Whereas you can have accessibility to our fashion, but at a far, far lesser cost for your avatars. Now, what does that mean for the market? Who knows? And this is very critical, right? You are paying real money for digital assets. And that takes me to NFT. NFT is taking the world by be it luxury, be it art, because I think that's where you want to see a lot of the non-fungible token space. Of course, people say you can't wear NFT. So I'll give you an example. One of the most happening gala or ball in the world, of course, is the Met Gala, which happens in New York every year. All right. The last Met Gala, they clearly said NFTs are not allowed, which means you actually have to wear your fashion. You can't just get in a drive and say, this is my fashion. They were very clear on that because they've seen that happen, all right? But some people, including, of course, Serena Williams' husband, said, I'm also wearing this tuxedo, but I'm also wearing my other fashion clothes in the part of an NFT. And the NFT was in his lapel pin, right? So what I'm going to tell you is you're going to see more and more of this evolution. Unique, non-fungible token-driven luxury items, arts, which cannot be replicated, which are only yours, with a digital signature, backed by blockchain, so you know exactly who's got it, where the ledger is. Very interesting. Do I completely understand NFTs? Hell no. But then 99% of people don't understand NFTs. That's not the point. The point is there's a market and it's becoming even more important, especially in the world of art and luxury.
I don't even understand fashion for that matter.
Yeah. So there you have it. All right. I'm going to share one last example with your permission. All right.
Yeah.
So the rise of avatars, very important. You have 3.5 billion Generation Z or Generation Z and Generation Alpha people in the world. Like I said, they were including digital presence. They all of all of them have Facebook, Instagram, Snapchat, and avatars. Everyone is socializing online, especially with the pandemic. There's a nice movie which came out in 2012 with Bruce Willis called Surrogates. Have a look at it. This is what we're looking at happening in the world today with Second Life and with the metaverse. And that's why the rise of avatars and the non-fungible tokens. Just look at that. People are ready to pay $10,000 for an online Gucci bag. An online Gucci bag. Really? All right. Okay. So fashion tech, of course. Digital fashion shows with Gucci. Online luxury retail with everyone is doing it. Digital fashion and NFT by Versace. Circular fashion, very, very important happening. Again, this is very interesting from a tech perspective and a planet circular and sustainability perspective. Rent, resell, repair. And what you see in the fashion world is, of course, it's dominated by the French. Why the French think generationally. But trust you me, in the next decade, you'll see at least 1 out of the top 10 companies in luxury being Chinese because of their lead in the digital space. So don't be surprised if you see a Chinese luxury company in the top 10 in the next decade. They already account for 50% of the global luxury market. It's only a matter of time. All right, the Indian classroom. Pretty much a classroom anywhere in the world. How do you change this? I'll give you a hint over there, but love to hear. How do you think we can change this?
You can massively change it. If you take all the classes online like we are doing, connecting over the freaking world, I mean, really adjusting all the levels. Why do I have to go to a classroom? It's not really important anymore if I can do it really online. So, but you have to get used to it. You have to get used to being able to speak online and to present your face and to share your ideas, and then you can grow together. Then you can come to this global mindset, let's say, that we're promoting. And if we can already start with young people in bringing them into the mindset of that they not can only play and not can only buy $10,000 Gucci bags online, but they can actually gain knowledge online, that would be really nice.
Absolutely. And I think this entire movement, digitalization of education, the fillip it has taken in the past couple of years because of that code-enabled thing of remote learning, or hybrid learning has been phenomenal. And that's really what's happened in the Indian classrooms. The past 2 years, India has had one of the longest interval of students not being in class. So most students, at least for 18 to 20 months, did not go back to class. As simple as that. That's where the digital revolution really took place. And we've now have about 6 or 7 different unicorns, which are billion-dollar companies in the space of EdTech. This is very important from if you see in developing countries, and we don't see that in Western countries and in the developed world, sorry, in the global north, is this real focus on education. In India, if you ask a parent, his three or her three major priorities is obviously food, shelter, and education for their children. Because people believe that education is the only enabler for socio-economic mobility.
Why do you say believe?
Because it's there, it's happening in India completely.
But they believe, they're not really sure.
No, they believe. That's what they're sure. They believe. It's like they know.
Oh, okay.
They will do it. Believe.
Okay.
I mean,
but it's a stronger word than believe. If I believe that it's going to happen, then it might happen or might not happen.
But Herbert, this is where you have cultural context. In India, belief is stronger than knowing. Because belief is spiritual. Yeah. Knowing is physical.
Yeah.
Very interesting. That's a social context. So if you believe, like we believe in religion, we believe in spirituality, we believe. So when you believe, it is far more than knowledge. It is absolutely in your DNA that you have to do it. And that's what's been very interesting. And that's what we've seen in a lot of developing countries. That's how you see the rise of EdTech has been insane in the past 2 years. You have behemoths like Byju's, which students from India, obviously everyone knows. Of course, there are pros and there are cons to it, but the fact of the matter is they are now a $26 billion company.
But I fully agree with you. I believe you. Very strong. I have to adapt my wordings immediately. But what I also see is knowledge became more or less free. When I used to go to get knowledge over the last 20 years, I had to pay for every course and I had to pay for everything. These days, I can gain the world online, and everything is for free. So yes, it might be a unicorn, but knowledge became really a commodity, more or less. It's written down, I can get it from anywhere. And if it's not freely available, I get it somewhere else. It doesn't matter, So knowledge is not really the power anymore.
But I think there's been a shift in the IP. We always thought knowledge when research was IP. That's not the IP anymore. The IP for institutions, teachers, professionals is not knowledge. Knowledge is truly out there. You're very right. And it's like a genie just come out of the bottle. You can never put it back inside.
Right.
What is the differentiator is going to be the application of that knowledge. How so
Yeah, I agree.
what do
And
institutions do?
the skill set that you bring to apply the knowledge.
Absolutely.
The skill
Absolutely.
set that you can translate problems into knowledgeable steps, those kind of things. And that is attitude,
And that's why if you see there's been a very rapid shift, especially again in the German-oriented countries also. So, and I include to some extent even Holland in that. You always had two kind of institutions, right? You always had the research universities, and you always had the applied sciences universities, right? And the Hogan schools and the schools and so on and so on. And if you see now, you're seeing the applied sciences university institutions actually becoming better and better in profile, because they are the ones actually teaching you application and real world skills, as vis-a-vis the older research oriented which are more on the academic side. This is something which is happening globally.
Well, I see something else happening. I've got a customer called BMW in Germany, Munich. They're opening up some factories in the United States. And because of the level of education being so low in the United States, they are opening their own factory school for engineers. So they are, getting classrooms, getting them into the traditional German way of doing really their things right. And then that's the way they bring the knowledge there. So you see movements and shipments, applied sciences, yeah, but it's devaluating as well. Everybody gets a graduate degree, 300K graduate students in Germany per annum. I guess in India it's 300K per month, or in China it might be 300K per week. So it's degrading all the time. The real companies need to have real companies. I'm sorry, the companies, bigger companies like BMW or Gucci, for that matter, need to have extremely skilled people in a specific area, and they will start doing it themselves. I am afraid.
So I have one question to Aditya, because you mentioned that there are so many engineers graduated, but you mentioned that there is a skills gap. But what do you mean by skills gap? Can you say it a little bit more precise? So what?
I think more than me, Herbert has already said, if you come out with a piece of paper, that does not make you ready to actually apply knowledge. It's as simple as that. And I think this is something which has happened, and I agree that there is a commodification where people come out with degrees and qualifications, but if you put them actually in the driver's seat to actually implement what they've learned, they can't. It's not that they don't want to. I think that's the sad truth. They would love to. Who doesn't want to? But you don't have the knowledge to apply that knowledge. So that's the clear words. You don't have the knowledge to apply your knowledge. Right? And that's the interesting cycle which is there. And I think that's going to be something which will have which is going to be changing in the field of education. Already is. Some institutions are already doing it. Perhaps to some extent we're doing it slightly in Athena. But I think globally that's what's going to change. That application of knowledge, that's going to be critical, because knowledge now is democratized. You're very right in that. What isn't democratized is how you apply it and how you use it. Right? Yeah. It's like this. I'll give you an example. Everyone, even when we were children, everyone can access a canvas, all right, a piece of canvas. Everyone can access brush. Brushes. Everyone can access water paints, oil paints, right? That's knowledge for you. But you still need to know how to paint. You need to have the skill to paint and whatever, maybe a portrait, be it an impression, be it a landscape. All right, that's what's important. So I think that's where I see education hopefully moving towards in the next 10 to 20 years, application of knowledge. If we can do that, very exciting times ahead, typically, for sure.
It's for sure. And I'm sorry I have to stop here. 5:10. I'm already in another meeting, but it was so exciting that I stayed 10 minutes longer with you guys. But I have to say goodbye now. So thank you
Pleasure,
very
Albert.
much for the invitation.
So thank you.
Jörg.
So
And
see you tomorrow then, huh?
I hope so. If you send me link invite, I'll be there.
Okay. Yeah.
Please.
Okay, thank you very much.
Bye.
And on that note, ladies and gentlemen, this is what digital transformation is all about. It's about being able to think, but I wanted to understand it is a mindset. It is all about being able to implement this in the real world. You're seeing rapid, you have to be flexible, you have to be agile, because you're seeing changes come in it at tremendous rates, something which was not there before. All right. So if you're not flexible, if you're not agile, you won't survive. That's number one. The second very important thing is you have to be innovative. You have to innovate all the time. Your iterative loops, your iterative cycles have to be faster, because when previously you had years to make a new prototype and a new product, you have barely months now. But if you can do that, then the world is in your hands. So go forward and do that. That's how you're going to make the world a better place. And hopefully that's how you're going to make yourself a better person and a better professional in the years to come. Thank you so much.
Perhaps we have one or two questions still
Yeah,
from
absolutely.
Julius or Manoy or Uludulapu. Vinit is also in India. He's also a professor. But perhaps, Julius, do you have a precise question for our expert today?
That's a good question as well.
Isn't it? Yeah.
Okay, I have a question. I was just thinking about how, even with all these new technologies, new ways of doing things taking place, getting into them is a challenge because of the things we are already invested in. So I wanted to ask, from your perspective, how easy it is to adapt or adopt these new technologies and the opportunities they present, when you consider what you're already involved in. I don't know if you understand.
I do, Lupa, and I've been there, done that. The only barrier is your mindset, nothing else. All right. Business and innovation change is always outward looking. Remember that you have to be very outward looking. The problem with us is our education so far has always taught us to be inward looking. Look outwards. If you have an idea, if there's a direction you want to move in, the resources are always there. It's on how you get the resources together. It's as simple as that. And by resources, I mean people, I mean support, I mean guidance, I mean money, I mean infrastructure, I mean policy. You're all there. But it is you who has to have that mindset and idea to integrate that together and create something. That's very important. Is it going to be easy? Hell no. Great things are never easy. But is it possible? Hell yeah, it's already happening.
But how did you personally develop your innovation mindset? I mean, like you said, you had different perspective, no? Even from India, then you have been to Wharton, so you have seen a lot of things, and now you are also investing or being partner of different companies, or advisory boards. I mean, you are also for sustainability in this global network. I mean, what drives you personally in this? Being this, have you always been like that, or is it a development of this mindset? Perhaps you can give some personal parts.
I think and this is a phrase which I think it's used very often, and it first came out in public domain. Probably we all remember is 1999 when there was a very interesting movie called The Matrix, which came out. I don't know how many of you've seen that. I'm sure everyone's seen The Matrix.
Yeah.
And I remember the word which came, which was free your mind. That's very important. The most important thing which you have, the most important weapon tool which you have is your mind. Free it, unshackle it. The problem is you always taught to be conformist. You always been told why, or you always told that the mindset which you always go for is why. I encourage you to take a different view. Don't think about why. Think about why not. All right. Look at a child. A child doesn't say, the child says, why not? You tell a child, don't climb the tree. The child asks you, why not?
Yeah.
Because I can climb a tree. Why don't you want me to try me to climb a tree? Simple as that. All right. Remember how children are. I mean, look at the vision. Look at what they want to do. They're thinking they can conquer the world. Look, I mean, imagine how we were when we were children. We could be astronauts, right? We all were astronauts in some way or the other, right? We could be explorers of the sea. And imagine if we had these kind of tools when we were there, perhaps with more wisdom, what we could have done. What's happened to us now? We do what society tells us to do. We've been taught, listen, take orders, don't question people. You have a place in society, be there, you'll be safe, you'll have a steady income. Right? You may, but look where you will be when you're 60 or 70. As simple as that.
But how much, Aditya? How much came also from the influence from United States about this innovation and about? I mean, they started with it 20, 30 years ago. New products.
It's not driven by the US. This has been coming driven by India, if you ask me. This has been more from an Indian context rather than a US context. To be very, very honest with you.
Okay.
India is an epicenter of what we call frugal innovation, and maybe sometime, and in fact I do teach that subject, so maybe sometime I'll do a session with your students on, and the term which Vineet and Manoj will know is what we call in India is something called jugaad, all right, which essentially means taking very less resources and creating something out of it, all right.
Yeah, I'm a close friend of the person who wrote the book. He's based in
So
Cambridge.
So Manoj knows exactly what I'm talking about.
Yeah.
Of course, the book has come from what you, I, Vineet, all of us practice in real life, right? In
Yeah,
Jugaad,
definitely.
all right.
Sure.
So that's where it comes. So frugal innovation. This is very Indian driven. It's not a US driven perspective, to be very honest. Yes, I would be very honest. I think the ecosystem in India is just opening up for that. Thank God for small mercies. But it's on us how we take leverage ecosystems from an Indian or an international level. Very importantly, I think Julius has a question. Julius, last question. Huh? I've got dinner to happen. It's Manoj and Vineet. It is 9:50 in the evening over here.
Okay, that's fine. No problem. No,
Okay,
I joined a bit late, so I'm fine.
Any question, Julius?
Yes, I try to make it quick. I hope you can answer it quick as well. How can you spot innovative people who are trying to innovate, and how can you best support them when you have a look from the management perspective on it?
Okay, that's an important question. To again paraphrase a saying from one of the very old songs, you become the wind beneath their wings. You let them fly. You give them all the resources. It's very, very important. All right. That's how you help innovators. You keep them caged, you tie them down, they're never going to fly. But you give a safety net at the same time. You are there to tell them, I'm here to help you. If you need help, I'm there. But you give them the resources. All right. And number two, very, very important is how do you spot them? You'll always spot them. They are the ones who will never be in a group. They'll always be the ones who will be alone. They'll always be the one who will be doodling or doing something. They are the innovators. The ones who are the popular ones who are trying to conform, they're never innovators. As simple as that.
Thank you for your answer.
Thanks.
Yeah, thank you very much, Aditya, for your time, for your knowledge, for your wisdom and experience. And I think we had not so many participants today, but it was very interesting. also to get more knowledge from India. So I always can learn when I'm listening to you, because some things I did not know, and we are still in this European setting or US setting, but we are neglecting to look a lot at China or India. I mean, China is a little bit more dominated for us than India, but India is not a tiger, but perhaps even bigger than a tiger when we really look at it. And this is something we must do. I mean, in Asia, perhaps the role of India is different than for us in Europe or even in Latin America. I mean, I know that India is also investing a lot in Africa. Now, so like you said, Africa is the new, perhaps the next century. Now it was China, and the next one is perhaps Africa with India inside. But this was very interesting. Thank you very much.
Pleasure was all mine. I hope there was some learning from it, and I wish everyone all the best. Take care. Cheers.
Okay, thank you very much. Bye-bye.
Thank you.
From
Thank
Mexico.
you. Bye bye.
Yes.
Bye-bye.
Bye.